As a woman, I feel like you hit choices throughout your life where you can just lay down and let people walk on you, or you can embrace your own power and move forward, but in the gracious way like a goddess would have. I think that's uniquely feminine. I think that power of helping someone feel at home in who they are. If I feel that I'm at home with who I am, and I have not a confidence, but like a peacefulness and acceptance that that's enough, it's gonna help you also feel like femininity really comes from that balance of knowing that you have the power to do something, but you also have the restraint to let someone take care of you or to be vulnerable. Balance is dynamic, right? It's walking the tightrope. You don't achieve balance, you're at the top of the mountain and you stay there. It's not like something you can check off. Balance, check, It's all the time.
Movement.
Yeah, and if you think about that, and then it feels easier to process things and navigate your way, I think.
Hello and welcome to ImagineU. Today is a challenging day for me because I need to take the interview in English, and it's the first one. I'm taking it in English. I have a special date. It's a good friend of mine. Her name is Bethany Deac. Bethany is the founder of interior design company called Vive Collaborative from United States of America. They are doing really nice hotels and country clubs and restaurants and amazing work they are doing. I met Bethany around 4 years ago. It was a charity ball made by Iowa International Women Association, and they really connected. It was a really good chemistry, so we became friends. And it was really nice for me to discover, beside her beauty and femininity and naturalness, a really creative, wise, and organized woman devoted to her family and her work. It was really nice for me to talk to her and to see how nice he can bring harmony between her work, family, and still take care about her femininity. And also she's a person that make the click with this podcast. So talking to her one day, it was on a Thursday, the next day on Friday, I said, okay, I need to do a podcast because we were talking a lot about relation, about how we imagine a relation, how it is, how it's life, so it's really happy for me to have her here. Hi, Bethany.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you, finally, because we are trying to do this for a long time and you are all the time gone with your work.
That's right, yeah.
Welcome back to Romania again.
Thank you, yeah.
How do you find life? How it's for you in Romania? How do you fit in this?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is living really busy lives now. I think we just are getting used to handling how busy things feel. But for me, I think my challenge is maybe I handle it a bit too well. I handle being too busy easily. So then that, comes with other challenges.
So that means that you are really passionate and you love what you are doing, your work.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get lost in something that you really like. And then I think, we as women also, we carry things maybe easier and with more graciously, I guess.
It's one of our characteristics.
Yes, I think it's something that maybe we get taught or we learn. One of those.
How did you choose interior design? What did you like it from the beginning? Did you have like a role model?
Yeah, so I had one of my favorite uncles was a landscape architect when I was young. I spent a lot of time with him. He owned a boutique where he would travel throughout Europe, collect things, bring back, sell to his clients. So I grew up around, linens from Italy and different things being imported. And I just used to love being in that space. And And then I think from an early age, I always kind of knew my gift for my birthday every year would be to redecorate my room. My mom would let me every year, yeah. I couldn't change the furniture every year, but I could change the decor, and then like every 5 or 10 years we could change the furniture. So I think everybody in my family pretty much knew. And then I went to business school first for a bit, and then I finished at an arts college.
What are the sources of your inspiration in your project?
Yeah, so I think inspiration, I think it comes from a lot of different things. Personally, for me, I think inspiration comes from being out, being exposed. One of the things that was really important when I founded the company that I have now was to get designers, all the designers that work for me, kind of out from behind their desks and out into the world. I think when you're outside, either in nature or a city or in a museum, for example, you just start to notice forms or shapes or colors. Like, for example, I love patina. I love how things age. I think it's really beautiful. That's one of the things I think you guys are so fortunate in Europe to have, like, so many worn, beautiful things. In America, everything's still quite new in terms of architecture, so we don't have the like worn marble steps walking up to something, and I think embracing that kind of aging process is really beautiful.
So that means that Europe is an inspiration for you.
Yeah, I think inspiration for me, really, I love film, I love cinema, and I love the color palettes that you can find outside in nature. Like, I think looking at a paint deck is not as exciting as seeing the colors on walls, like in Rome, and you get to see like these rich rust and ochre colors, and those you can bring into a project.
It sounds like a story.
Yeah,
it's really.
I think when you do, be quite romantic in your mind, like maybe fairy tale lands.
Yes,
I don't know,
I think this is why we got along together. Yeah. I'm the same with my fairy tales. You said, you told me that you believe that the space should be an extension of the people who live there.
Yeah, this is one thing that I feel really passionate about, especially in terms of residential design. And actually, we're quite selective in who we take on as clients when it comes to residential, because I think a lot of designers approach it as, oh, this is what's trendy or this is what's stylish, and put that into your home, versus thinking about the person who's living there, analyzing their personality and also the way they live, and then extracting some of that and expressing that in a beautiful way inside the home. So, for example, if you are someone who has a lot of things, your magazines and shoes and books and everything, you need to have a lot of storage, because if you think all of a sudden you're going to be like this Zen person, clean, minimalist, you can't change who you essentially are. So you need to just adjust and make the space about embracing the light and the dark part of you.
What objects and form define a woman from your point of view?
Yeah, so for me, I think one of the things that I think, I don't actually know if it's logical, but I think symmetry is something super feminine. To me, asymmetry seems more masculine. It has somehow an energy more direct, like more unnerving. Symmetry seems a bit more balanced, and it makes me feel like femininity is really, I think, about embracing your, softness, along with how durable, women are, in terms of you can make a child, but you also are this soft, vulnerable person. So for me, I think, symmetry, as well as I think textures. I think that comes through things that have really nice, beautiful, like, soft woods or textured fabrics. That's, I think, where you start to feel the space become more feminine.
Can you name an object that's a must-have in a woman's house?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can name lots. I feel like having having a space, like for me, having one chair or one kind of chair that envelops you, that you can kind of curl up in. It's soft and you feel like totally nurtured by it, is really important. I think women feel that when we provide so much nurturing for other people, that having just a space where you can kind of curl up and regenerate your own energy, I think is really important. And then I think daylight, one of the big things that I think helps me in design is the appreciation. Growing up in California, we were like sunshine all year. It just feels supernatural. We don't have really dark spaces. So I think having daylighting, one, it makes you look amazing, but also just it connects you with all of the timing of hours of the day, but also just the vitamin D and feelings that you get from that. I think those are the most important things.
What are your guiding principles that impact your life and the day?
Yeah, so I think from when I was young, even now, I feel that it's really important to be authentic. My sense of style even, I think, comes from that feeling of, I've never been someone who has like, I'm wearing the latest trendy thing or the latest color of nail polish, or I think from an early age, I really understood who I was. And
you were lucky.
Yeah, and have kind of my own taste in how I want to dress or portray myself to the world. And then I think something that's always stuck with me, I took a art class like early on, before the age of 10, and I remember hearing a quote by Pablo Picasso, which says there's only two types of women. You're either a goddess or a doormat. And I think at first I was like, two types, how rude, that's so like silly. And then I felt like the description of that changed for me, where you can, as a woman, I feel like you hit choices throughout your life where you can just lay down and let people walk on you, or you can embrace your own power and move forward, but in the gracious way like a goddess would have, like I don't think the idea is for people to worship you as much as it is speaking to the graciousness that is required, I think, for women in life.
Talking about Picasso and these two type of women, what do you think it makes a woman beautiful? Where it comes the beauty from?
I think that that's something that unanimously, I would say worldwide, people are always, men and women, I think are always intrigued by people who feel really at home in their own body. I think that's something that we really connected on. I feel like you and I both, we're not trying to really be someone that we're not. And I think that helps people. I think that's uniquely feminine. I think that power of helping someone feel at home in who they are. If I feel that I'm at home with who I am, and I have not a confidence, but like a peacefulness and acceptance that's enough, it's gonna help you also feel like, like, and
peace.
And I think women who have that, I think it's labeled as confidence, but I think women who have that, it's more like self-assuredness or self-acceptance. It really comes off as something, I think it's like the je ne sais quoi quality that people have, right? Where you think you can't put your finger on it. It's not because they're the most beautiful person or the most athletic it just feels like they are accepting who they are in totality. I think that's extremely attractive in people. And I think it's a challenge for women because we have all this extra information about how you should look and who you should be and what you should wear. That I think, as a woman, to get over that hoop,
Yes.
it seems more elusive. So once you do it, I think people are like, wait, how do, they're trying to figure out how you made it there, and then I think it puts you into this kind of, other strata.
Yeah, because the dynamic of the society today, it's everything is going so fast, and everything is.
And it's about conformity, right?
Yes.
It's better to conform, even the way our brain chemistry works, right? It's our survival has relied on seeing patterns, making things feel the same, and so then when you feel like, you've stepped out of that, and you've been able to look at yourself, maybe, for example, like I grew up really lucky, had some really strong women in my family, my grandmother, my mother, who really taught me from a young age. They're Italian, and they really made sure that I understood, like, your body type is your body type. You're not going to all of a sudden become like a long, skinny supermodel. As long as you understand how to dress yourself, you can. But some cuts of clothes are not going to be for you, And I think that honesty really helped me. I think being honest with yourself about, that's beautiful on that person, but maybe doesn't fit for me, rather than feeling like you're looking in the mirror thinking, why doesn't this specifically look great on me? Or why don't I feel great in this? I think that's helpful. I think being radically honest with yourself is really important.
What do you think about femininity and feminism? What is the difference between the two of them?
Yeah, that's so challenging, I think, right now with where we're at in society.
Yes.
I think that the language of feminism has really taken on something that I personally don't identify with, which is like hatred of men. I have a son, I have a husband. I don't hate men. I think that would be strange for me to raise my son in a household where I'm, talking about rhetoric about how evil men are. It would be quite damaging for him. I think that, again, that feminism has taken in this kind of lack of self-acceptance, another type of conformity, right? To be a feminist, you have to behave like this or wear this, or you cannot embrace being sexual or sensual or soft. I think it's really visible, actually, when you look at Western politicians. Women in politics in Western cultures, they start to dress more masculine. They start to present themselves more masculine because I think they're trying to have themselves be seen at a power level, a power dynamic. But I think femininity really comes from that balance of knowing that you have the power to do something, but you also have the restraint to let someone take care of you or to be vulnerable with someone. And I think if you can find
This balance.
that balance, or one of my favorite terms that someone told me a long time ago was balance is dynamic, right? It's walking the tightrope. You don't achieve balance, you're at the top of the mountain and you stay there. It's not like something you can check off. Balance, check, It's all the time.
Movement.
Yeah, and if you think about that, and then it feels easier to process things and navigate your way, I think.
And not to want to stay only up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think women who are described truly as feminine are the ones who have both. They are at the same time soft and also you know, they have the potential to make it through hard things. I think that's femininity, you know, that you can see all this in one person.
So, you are married for 19 years already, and you have a 17-year-old son, and you still are so feminine, and so.
Yeah, I mean,
and you find this balance between your work, your family, your time, your friends.
yeah. At times I've done it more successfully than others. Definitely when I started in my industry, I felt this need to really push through, and I had no balance then, right? I kind of went from having our son to being fully, you know, like a mom, all the way to working, you know, 60, 80-hour weeks at a big architectural firm. I wasn't in balance in any of that. And then when I started this company, actually, one of the main reasons was because I really wanted to spend time with our son while he was still at home. I felt like his life was passing and I was going to miss out. And that was something that was important to me. I knew I had to be in charge of my own schedule. Luckily, I found people whose interest aligned with me on that. And one of the important things now, and I would say maybe it will be my best contribution, is that not only have I been able to be a part of my son's life in an incredible way, I have also been able to provide other opportunities for women in my industry to find balance between being a mom and being a designer. I remember my first boss, he told me, oh, you can either choose. You can be a mom or you can be a designer. Make your choice. Like either you have to work late or you can go home to your kids. One will take you to success, one will
ruin your life.
Yeah. And I kept thinking like there has to be the middle road. And so now I feel like I've, through many failures, maybe made it closer to that. But I think that the nicest thing, the most fulfilling thing for me is knowing that I got to see my son grow up. I think him and I have a really close relationship.
What do you teach him for life? How do you teach him to have a relation with a woman?
I think, so from the time he was really young, I think I always instilled in him, I think direct quote would have been, it doesn't matter how beautiful someone is, as long as they treat you nice.
Respect.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's mutual, mutually given and received. I think he has seen me challenge between being a caretaker and being a professional. He's also been exposed a lot because I office at home. He sees, you know, he hears me on conference calls. He sees me working. He knows when I work late and I wait, and he knows when I work until 2 a.m. and still wake up and have breakfast with him. And though it's not conscious, subconsciously I know he understands that dynamic. And I can say now, I couldn't say that 10 years ago, but now seeing him at 17, I can see his choices in girlfriends that reflect his respect for women. I think the people you choose, you can start to see how maybe mature that person is based off of who they choose. Luckily, everybody so far has been calm and, you know, people that have really beautiful personalities in addition to being beautiful.
So it's very important, a mother's touch.
Yeah, I think you have to take a responsibility of making sure that you reinforce the right values, right? You don't have to, planting the seeds is important, but you also have to kind of trim and pull out different, you know, ideas, or especially now, there's so much information for kids. It's so polarizing, you know, it's important to make sure that they understand that you don't have to be on the far extreme. You can be somewhere in the middle.
The same balance we are talking about.
I think that's...
I'm searching it for it.
Yeah, I think
all
everybody.
the time.
Yeah, but it's elusive, right? It's
Yes.
You have to keep looking. You have to keep searching. Once you find it,
Keep
something
moving.
else. Yeah.
You are married for 19 years with a Romanian
Yeah.
man. This is how you
Yeah.
get back here in Romania. How did you overcome the cultural barriers at the beginning?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely feel that I think we're attracted. He living in U.S., missing the culture that he grew up with. Me growing up in U.S., but with European side of my family.
Italians.
I think we're both missing the same thing, and I would say that we are we have a foot in both sides. So neither of us feel 100% one thing or 100%, he grew up his whole adult life in US. He's, spent half of his life in California. So maybe he's half Californian and half Romanian at this point, but I think one of the things that we always felt was we're quite traditional in terms of family. I feel like we really wanted that feeling of having, my family used to do pizza nights every Friday night. I have a huge family, 35 people are together once a week. It's a lot, Someone who doesn't want to be part of that chaos would be hard for them to, the same thing when I come here, or even in the beginning, I love how Romanians love to show love with food, because Italians are doing the same thing, They feed you for the love. You go to, everybody's house and everyone has 3-course meal prepared for you, at every family member's. So I think those were things that I could easily appreciate because it felt closer to how my family behaves. Otherwise, I think I think it would be, I don't think we faced the type of challenge in terms of like we really foundationally didn't understand each other's culture. I think it was something that we both felt open to. Like curiosity, I guess, would be I started to learn Romanian alongside Stefan. It was important for me for him.
Do you speak Romanian?
I speak some. I'm too shy to speak it because I didn't learn it like properly. Bine, merci. But it was really important for me for Stefan to learn it. It's part of him. It's part of his DNA. So I think like that. I think I was more, I never assumed I will be Romanian or that he will be.
Yes. It was very important for you to communicate one to each
Yeah,
other.
and for us to, I don't know, the first time we met his parents here, I went to his grandma's house. I didn't understand anything she was saying, and I thought this is a strange relationship to have with someone where I'm so close with my family, I can't imagine not understanding what they would want. I can't imagine my grandma not being able to tell Bogdan what she wants to say. Or Stefan specifically, our son, to not understand that. So it would be hard for me to have that type of relationship with someone.
You have supported each other with your husband and help each other develop together. Now, how did you get to this unit? Yeah,
so I think something interesting that I think we're starting to learn, right, is that we met when we were both quite young and we really grew up together. I don't think each of us really knows what that would have been like in a different way. Versus now, I think it's more common where people kind of grow up and they get married a bit later. And then they know themselves as individuals, and then they're I feel like we faced all of our challenges already together, and honestly also as a family. We had Stefan quite young as well, so I feel like we were kind of already there. I think we have very opposite balanced personalities. My strengths are not his strengths, and I think we were able to see that early on. So that's always something that I felt like really connected us.
Do you think that the love that binds you together was enough to keep the relationship working?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I grew up in a family where, like, my grandparents were married for 60 years when my grandmother passed away.
60 years.
Yeah. And I just always grew up with this idea that
It will be forever.
it's forever, yeah. And I think having that in the back of your mind helps you move past scenarios or outside. I would say so much of what happens inside the relationship really has nothing to do with the people. It's a lot of external kind of factors. But I think the big things, we are both very compassionate people. I think we've shown a lot of compassion to each other. When I was at my worst, he's helped to pull me out of that. The same for him. I think that's really what it takes, knowing that you're never going to sync up always at the right thing, you know? And
So you're a good team.
Yeah, you have to be a team. You have to be forgiving, and you have to, you know, I'm quite idealistic. I like everything to be like. So I think putting yourself back into, like, you know, not fairy tale
You
land.
said something, being forgiving.
Yeah. And with yourself. You know, you have to, in a relationship that's going to stand that length of time, you really have to be forgiving with yourself. You have to know that if you didn't say the right thing, or, I don't know, you didn't wake up on the right side of the bed that day, that tomorrow's a fresh day, or in an hour from then. Or you can say sorry when maybe you don't feel that sorry. Or you know, just to move past small things that can...
I think you are lucky that you are having the opportunity to live this experience in this life.
I think so. Honestly, I think too...
Seeing what is happening around us.
Yeah.
With couples and where they go and where the society goes.
I think it's a huge challenge right now for people in terms of what does the relationship dynamic mean. And I think there's a lot of people who are frightened of maybe getting past whatever they're currently in. Sometimes, one of the skills that I use a lot for my work is problem solving. And actually, I think that's just one of my characteristic skills. I think I'm the type of person who can step back from something and say, like, hold on, like, let's pause.
Be an observer.
And think about, maybe we're not seeing it from all sides.
Change the perspective.
Yeah. And I think especially in a relationship, if you can pause and try to see a different side of it, or just say, this comes back to, like, being honest with yourself. Sometimes you can just simply say, maybe I don't have the skill, or I haven't developed the skill to deal with this yet. It's not that the relationship or the thing is unsolvable. You just need another tool or another skill set to develop in order to move forward. Anytime that I feel like paralyzed by a challenge, I like to ask myself, why? Why do you feel that way? What are you missing? What information are you missing? for example, doing my taxes feels paralyzing to me, right? But I'm not an accountant. If I would have gone to school to learn that skill, I probably wouldn't feel paralyzed by doing that. I didn't. So I think if we can start thinking of emotional skill sets, also would help us navigate a bit better some of the challenges that we, for some people listening is very easy. For some people it's not. For some people saying what they want is easy. For some people that's a huge challenge. You have to think of it not as, that's it, I'm broken, I'm moving on, but maybe give yourself some space to develop that in parallel, I think. That's what I like to think of how I live life in general.
Talking about couples and living in Romania already for 4 years, how do you see Romanian couples? What is the dynamic?
Yeah.
Because I think America, California is different.
Yes, it's very different. There's, I think, essentially some similarities. One thing, I'm a huge fan of Romania. I love being here. I love this country. I love this culture. One thing that I would say is my favorite thing about relationship dynamics here, inside of couples, but also just, I think, inside of the country, that's unique out in terms of US, is that I think there's this acceptance that men are allowed to be more like they are allowed to embrace being men, and women are allowed to embrace being women, and on a certain level both accept that about the other person. Where in US the opposite would be, we're trying to make ourselves less feminine and less masculine so that we are more similar, but neither of us feels fulfilled because we're not really being ourselves. There are certain strengths that are inherent to men, and there are certain strengths that are inherent to women that I think, yes, are there women who are as physically strong as men? There are, but are in general men more physical? It's a physicality thing at one point. Women can give birth up until now, unless somebody made a new development that I don't know about. That's something that is uniquely ours, and that should be something that's really, my experience is that, that's something really appreciated here. It's not something kind of seen as, okay, well, for example, women in US, they have to go back to work at 8 weeks. That's so unforgiving. You're not at a point to work 8 weeks after you gave birth. It's just unrealistic. But that culture is dictated by this idea that everybody has to kind of operate on the same level. Here, I think it's different. I really appreciate, I think there's this unspoken respect for both sides.
What do you think is the role of a woman in a relation?
I think,
because lately we are just running and running to do.
Yeah.
And I think the woman, I just say, the man is to do, the women is to be, in a way.
I think that's really important.
Poetically said.
Yeah, I think it's in our nature to be this kind of nurturing kind of like embodiment. I think it would be, I don't know, diminutive to ignore that part of us. I think dynamics now are changing, right? Because women are working, they're not staying home. Now who becomes the cleaner? Who becomes the dog walker? Who's all the small little responsibilities now shift because both, dynamics are, especially now if both parents, for example, are working, or both people in the couple are working, 10, 12 hours a day, who then picks up all the small things. I think the idea would be to be open to, ideally, right, the couple would be able to say, I really like this aspect.
Can you do this?
Yeah, like, and I don't feel guilty about saying, you know, sometimes for me, cleaning, organizing is so therapeutic. I really like it. I work through all of my things there. I like cooking. It's not my passion, you know. I do it because I have to do it. So I think if the couple can say, hey, this role that's, you know, has been defined as feminine for so long, I like that one. I'm willing to keep that on my side of the list.
My list.
Yeah, you know, but this other thing, I don't really like to do that. You know, if you can accept that some of the labels you want and some you don't, then I think it's fine. I think it's acceptable to say, you know, I like to be this traditional kind of house mom. I think it's amazing. I think women who stay home and raise families, that is such an incredible supportive role, because I think it takes so much, of a step back. You have to be so secure in your ego to step back and to be the support person rather than the person who is taking the charge forward or making, you know. I think it's such an amazing quality for someone who can dedicate their entire life as a career to supporting everyone around them. I think that's amazing. I couldn't do that. I didn't, but it's not a skill that I have. I need to be out interacting with people, and I think women who can do that aren't really given credit. I think it's seen as something like, you weren't good at this, or you didn't have a choice.
Do you find it less feminine, this thing?
To stay home?
Yeah.
No,
not to stay home. The other one, to go out.
To go out? No, I think both can be feminine. I think they just need to be. I think women need to give each other more support. I don't actually think men are the ones who are entering this conversation. I think it's between women. I think women who stay home should be more supportive of women who don't, and women who don't should be more supportive of the choice to stay home.
What quality a woman should not lack?
I think being. So I think the top qualities that I think are important. I think being forgiving. I think being honest. And mostly, let's start with just self, like being honest with yourself, being forgiving with yourself. The more forgiving you can be with you, the more forgiving you can be with everyone. I think a quality that's important that we need to foster more of is putting yourself as a priority. I think women are not necessarily taught that. I think it's important that we, taking care of your skin is not a luxury. It's just normal. Part of life,
yeah.
But I think that needs to be normalized, the same way that getting your teeth cleaned or going to the doctor, right? Just that's part of. We should be teaching our daughters this from birth, skincare, hair care, wanting to look beautiful.
The basics.
Yeah, but even beyond just cleanliness, wanting to take care of yourself and maintain yourself, I think is something that's really beautiful. I think that's something that you should teach girls from an early age. I think Romania does that a bit better than US. But I also think culturally women are, you have more care between grandma and daughter and these type of relationships. So some of that gets, I think, better passed down. But I think people love to use the word authenticity. I think it's important. I think that word gets thrown out a lot, but I think that has basis in being honest and forgiving. Those are, I think, the two things that I think are really important.
Do you consider yourself successful? Like, did you success in everything that you planned in your life?
Someone told me, one of my mentors told me, last year I was kind of going through a phase of my career where I felt like I could be growing more and wasn't, and because I'm quite ambitious and I like to push myself. And one of my mentors told me, as you are right now, if you were to have a conversation with yourself when you entered this industry, when you entered this career, wouldn't that person be so amazed by you and everything that you've created? Like that, if you had that conversation then, you would be able to see yourself how you are now, not how you want to be, but with everything that you've achieved. I think that put into context for me a lot of different things. And I feel that for my standard of success, I feel really at peace with what I've been able to check off the list. And I think, I don't know, I feel like life is long. My grandfather's 93.
So you're going to live.
Yeah, I mean, also look, Frank Gehry, one of the most famous architects in the world. He didn't become famous until he was 65. I think that's incredible. Like, you could have, I think we get to this age where we're like, oh, we need to have made everything we need to do by now. And then you hear that people had success 20, 25 years older than you. It's amazing. There's so much life and things that you can still do. But for my age and for what I feel at peace with everything that I've done now.
You were telling me you just finished a really nice book. I forgot to tell you to bring one before you leave from home, so you already left from home. So what book did you?
So actually, I recently finished Lighter. It's by Young Pueblo. It's his third book. I've read all of them. He's really well known on Instagram for like little sayings, which are what his first two books are, like short kind of pieces. This book is really in-depth kind of dive into the human psyche, how we relate to trauma, how that shows up in our behaviors, but also what's interesting is he really helps pinpoint how to recognize those behaviors in other people. It's something that I think helps you meet people where they're at. You don't internalize what they're doing, their behaviors, as something that maybe you think you're doing wrong. You start to recognize that someone who's behaving in this way, it has to do with something that they're working through, even if it's pointed at you, It's not about you, it's
about
not about
them.
You. Yeah, it's about them. And I think that's easy to kind of say and think, but then when someone's specifically behaving in a way where they're maybe being rude or aggressive to you, it's hard as someone not to be like, take it personally. So this, I think, helps really, it helps, I think, to disassociate. What's yours, what's theirs, how do you meet in the middle, how can you give people space to kind of move forward on their path of emotional maturity while maintaining your own.
Bethany, you did therapy now because you are so wise.
Yes.
So I think you search for your traumas and for your...
I think it's important. I think
it
it's
helped
important
you.
It did, yeah. I think it's something that maybe it's like a generational, coming from US, it seems super normal. But I do think just like just like we study and we advance skills in everything else, we should also cultivate emotional intelligence with our kids, with our... Actually, I was just having this conversation with some of my family that I think some of the new animated movies for kids are so beautiful. There's been like 2 or 3 movies now, I don't know, Luca, Encanto, which have like an amazing amount of emotional intelligence. They just speaking to children about things in this kind of like cutesy way, about really profound ideas. How do you deal with fear or acceptance or family kind of, you know, I think it's incredible. I think the more we can give those tools to kids early on, we will be so much better off as adults.
And for the end, something nice for the women there watching us.
I think...
Not an advice,
yeah.
I can't name it advice. Something that they can inspire them in being better with themselves.
I think my advice, or maybe it's not advice, maybe my insight is that once I could forgive myself for all of my shortcomings and see all of the things that I already have as this incredible gift, I was able to be so much more forgiving with other women. And I've been able to cultivate friendships with women who I think are so profound and powerful. I think that's been something that I've really learned as I've matured as an adult. My advice piece would be to cultivate those deep friendships with women who have similar kind of
approach.
Yeah, maybe approach or energy to you. And then if you already have those friendships, just to make time for it and value it, because I feel like as women, we can really lift each other up. There's so much we have to share and to exchange between us. I think that's where our like secret powers lie, you know, is how we exchange information and how we encourage each other. You know, we each have things that we can benefit from the other
become
one.
a better version of us.
Yeah, rather than being competitive with each other.
Yeah.
You know, I think
because it's not all about competition.
Exactly.
In life.
Yeah. That's, I think, my...
Bethany, thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.
much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for watching us. I'm just waiting for your comments. And if you liked it, a subscribe, a like, how everybody is saying. And see you next time at ImagineU. Bye.